Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Honest Aphrodite. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Now let's get into it. I'm in a slightly different place today than I usually am, usually at my desk, but I'm actually watching a movie for the third time right now. It's on mute, obviously, so that I can, talk to you and to myself about the film. I want to do a little tiny review, a very informal ad hoc review. I haven't prepared as much as I probably should have, but I feel like I need to get my 2 cents out there before the Oscars, which are on Sunday, March 2nd, 2025. And I want to talk about none other than the infamous film, Emilia Perez, okay? I'm saying it very quietly because I'm afraid I might get canceled by even just like saying the name or anyone finding out that I'm watching it. It has been quite a drama around this film, only in the last 2 months. I think it's fascinating. And I think it says so much about ourselves as a society and how into celebrities and Hollywood culture we are. I don't think I've seen as much kind of hoopla around a film in a very, very long time. I actually saw all the reviews and everything before I even watched the film. So I was fascinated. I probably wouldn't even have watched it if it weren't for all the, scathing reviews on YouTube and normal like print media. But it's just crazy to me how much flack it's gotten. And I do know for sure that if you look in the mirror and say Emilia Perez 3 times, the entire cast will appear and start singing to you off key. So do be careful. They say it's an urban legend, but it's real. Okay, so like I said, this is kind of ad hoc. And so I want to get started with like what I think is okay about the film. So my response to this is it's really not all that terribly bad. It really isn't. There are some major flaws and problems, and then of course there's the entire problem unfurling in the real world, brought on by the texts, by the tweets, Carlos Sofia Gascon's tweets, but that's a whole other story. So just to stick to the film for now, let me talk about what I actually like about it. I like Carlos Sofia's performance. I think she's amazing. I think her expressions, her body language, her nuanced reactions, just brilliant. It shows that she is a high caliber actress. I think she's very good, even when she's having to sing out of tune and in a kind of strange syncopated way. Her lips are gorgeous. I love Selena Gomez's hair. I love her clothes and general fashion throughout. I mean, it's just amazing. And the scenes that she's in are just like striking, the way they're shot and the kind of movement that happens in them. I don't remember the songs well enough to like actually recall the names of those songs, but either way. Edgar Ramirez, this man can do no wrong. He is overworked and underappreciated always. He's amazing. I think he's great at everything he does, and I was really happy to see him in this role. So there you are. He was a very happy experience in that film. Visuals were amazing. The colors, the lighting and cinematography I thought were just great. It really created an atmosphere that supported the kind of melodrama and of the musical itself. So all of those were good things. And I think if it had just been those things around a simple story that had some of the same elements and maybe was not a musical, it would have been fine. It probably wouldn't have gotten a lot of awards, but people wouldn't have been spending this much time creating content about how bad it was. It wouldn't have gone in that extreme. So who knows, maybe it achieved what it wanted with that old adage of, all press is good press or all publicity is good publicity. It certainly has publicity. So, okay, here's what's bad. And it's funny, like All you have to do, if you are not aware of this film and all the controversy around it, just type in Emilia Perez on YouTube, and the first thing you're going to find, actually, let me do that right now. Okay, the first thing that comes up is the racist cisgender nonsense of Emilia Perez. This review or this analysis is 2 hours and 18 minutes long. Like, that is a feature film itself. Very high quality. Why it went from awards darling to a big problem. It really is that bad. Everyone hates Emilia Perez except Oscar voters. Stop giving this awards. Emilia Perez is the worst Oscar contender. Cringy and offensive. Emilia Perez is the messiest movie I've ever seen. Okay, I agree with that. It's messy. Another one is just called LOL. Emilia Perez is the worst movie ever made. Okay, finally, all this way down, you get the official trailer. So you're not even getting the official trailer when you type it in. A bizarre and ignorant film. Review and deep dive. Okay, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And then there are all these hilarious shorts as well that, make fun of it and have the worst songs in Emilia Perez, which is not hard to find. Okay, so some of the major problems people had with it were the cultural problem of it not being true to Mexican culture, and then also kind of portraying Mexican culture and the narco culture in a way that wasn't, didn't reflect well on the country. And on top of that, it was, set in Mexico, quote unquote, but not filmed there. They really did not use Mexican actors. I'm not sure of the actors and the extras and, the whole cast, but it's hard to tell. The main actors, not at all Mexican. People were upset about that. And okay, it does make sense to me. Like, if you're gonna have this whole story and, set in Mexico and spoken in Spanish, it's not like these old American films where it's like, yeah, this is set in, the Congo, and it's like all white people in some kind of wooded area in the South. And it's like, that's not the Congo, okay? I'm not even talking about a real film, but you know what I mean? Like, we have for ages in the world of Hollywood said that this is representing one thing and it does it badly. So this is just a long line of bad representation. I don't actually know why we've gotten so up in arms about this, because this is what Hollywood does. It represents things badly. We've gotten better over the years because people clap back and have stuff to say, but it's certainly not perfect, and this film shows that. So people are angry about that. People are upset about that. Actually, there's this one great, I think it's a Rolling Stone review actually, and it's just like why people are upset about Emilia Perez. Upset is just the best word for it. They're angry about the portrayal of the trans experience. And that one I'm going to have to leave for people who know way more than I do about the trans experience to talk about. There's some great reviews. I will link them below, and they all make total sense to me. But I just don't understand where the anger is, where it's directed. Is it at the actress, Carla Sofia? Is it at the director, Odillard? Is it at both? Is it at the story? Like the way they've written this character of the drug lord becoming Emilia Perez, like this rebirth. I did notice one place that people said that it was bad how they kept saying that Emilia was always like questioning being a woman, or wasn't accepting herself as a woman. And then her aggressiveness of being, her male aggressiveness kept coming out. I didn't see that as problematic in terms of being transgender. I saw that more of a character choice where this person is mad and angry and letting things fly. Just to give you a little bit of a, might be a spoiler alert, but the character of Emilia Perez is angry at her, I guess, ex-wife at this point, and doesn't want her to move away with her kids. Long story short, she gets upset and strikes back because also her ex-wife is getting remarried and relocating. It's like, have you never broken up with anybody? Have you never broken up with anybody and seen them around moving on with their lives? I mean, I know that the character of Emilia Perez is complex, and she's kind of orchestrated things to be even more weird and like complex, but also, living with her ex and her kids and keeping the secret of her change. But it's also like, yeah, she's mad. I'd be mad too if my ex was, telling me how great their new life was going to be, and oh, you can't see your kids anymore either. So I find that actually kind of realistic, but that was problematic, and you'll see that in some of those reviews. But my big question is like, who should we be mad at for the portrayal of the transgender experience? The actress herself, who is transgender and agreed to play this role? Should she have said more about it? Should she have changed it? Or should we be more upset at the director and the writer? Or all of them? Language, which is highly connected to culture, is another big red flag for people. They said that it was, badly done, very poor representation of Spanish in general, a la Selena Gomez. But then, of course, none of these were actually Mexican actors, so you wouldn't have gotten the particular Mexican Spanish that people were wanting to see. So those are all things that I think come down on, like, just bad, lazy directorial choices. Like, the director, and the director was very clear about this. He was just like, no, I didn't go to Mexico. No, I didn't research that part of Mexican culture. No, I didn't really care about the language. I'm a French speaker. And so maybe it's just us getting upset about the fact that it's like another kind of egotistical, tone deaf, older white male kind of just doing what he wants and getting awards for it when the rest of the world is like, no, that's not how it is. Like, I hate to pull the like woman card, but I feel like if that were a female director, she would be being raked through the coals a lot more than and from the beginning. This film would not have even gotten as far as it has gotten in the award world, because they'd be like, how dare you not do your research? Because that's the biggest thing for directors. You've got to do your research, so that's a huge problem. All right, now my problems. These are my problems with it, and they're slightly different than the normal ones. My main problem with the film is Selena Gomez. Why was she cast? And why is her voice the way it is? I'm not talking about her Spanish. Snaps to Selena. I'm sorry, Selena is beautiful and gorgeous. Her clothes were great. Like I said, her hair was amazing. And she basically learned Spanish in order to perform in this film. Okay, yes, she's third generation Mexican, so she probably has a sense of the language, and she's probably heard it enough in her life that it was easier to pick up than somebody like me being cast. So at least there's that. But, still she had to work at it, and she said she had to work at it. So I'm sure that was hard. They also, have a caveat that the character is American, living in Mexico, married to this drug lord. So there's that kind of workaround. But my issue is just why is she such a bad actress? She is monotone in everything she says. Her expressions are expressionless. She shows no emotion most of the time. From the crying to the shouting, from the happiness to the anger to the upset, it's just like, Selena, you are so famous and so popular. Why don't you have an acting coach to set you on the right track? You're the same in Only Murders in the Building. Exactly the same. Just kind of going through the motions like this little automaton. You're the same in this film. And there's no excuse for it. That's all I'm saying. There's no excuse for somebody this famous with this much money and this much ability, or this many opportunities to be directed, to not be better at what she does. So that's my issue. The film is too long. It's just too long. I'm sorry. There's no reason it needs to be that long. I think it comes in at 2.5 hours or something. And I know it's compared to other things, fine. Some films are 3-4 hours, yada, yada. But it's too long. It does not need to be this long. I'm really, really sorry. The story should have just been a straight film. It did not need to be a musical. by any means. It could have just been the story itself. So there's that. And then the director at the end of the day is just, he's just way too into himself. Like, he's just insufferable, I have to say. All of the little interviews that he has and the way he talks about wanting to tell this story, it's like, why did you want to tell this story again? And I think it comes down to this. Like, this is an issue with the arts. Whose business is it to tell what story? Okay? And, I think about this as a writer, as someone who did theater, someone who appreciates film and theater and stories. And this is true in so many fields. Like, whose business is it to write about this, or paint about that, or make this music, or make that, or dance like that, or make this film? Like, should it have been him, or should he have collaborated with a Mexican director, artist, cinematographer, whatever, to make the story more believable and richer? Was this his story to tell? And I'd say a lot of people are like, no, it needed to be pinned down by, or like supported by, people with that actual experience and from that culture. But then on the other hand, it's the arts. It's the arts. So then are you going to say that you can't possibly make something about something that you haven't experienced? Because if that were the case, I don't think Hollywood or films or stories or theater would exist anymore. Acting certainly wouldn't exist, because no one would be able to play anything. Like, what about the voices of like Simba in The Lion King? No one's been a lion. Are we going to get a lion to speak now? Like, come on, please. So if you take it to that extreme, that's what you get. You get no one able to do anything if they haven't already experienced. So then what are you left with in terms of art? So that's kind of that's something we have to be careful of. But I agree, like, the other extreme is people just taking advantage of their clout and their money and their position to kind of tell whatever story they want in whatever way they want. Problematic. Here's the last part. This is not a normal film, as you know, and it's not just because it's bad, it's because it's a musical, all right? Or particularly called, what did he call it? He called it an opera libretto. And I don't know about opera enough to know that to know what this means, but it's just not your typical musical like the American public is used to. But I do have to say, the fact that it's a musical both curses and redeems it, okay? So first of all, it is objectively a pretty bad musical, okay? And we have to also keep in mind that, like, as a public, we had just seen Wicked. This is up against Wicked. Like, Wicked is a musical. We had just come singing and dancing on a high out of Wicked, and suddenly we're like, wait a second, this is a musical? I'm sorry, no, it's not. How dare you? Okay, so there's that contrast that makes it even crazier. And then like when I say we, I just mean society at large. We can like get our heads around like La La Land, which is kind of like a musical, or what were those other ones? I think I made a list here. Isn't like Joker 2 a musical or something? The one with Lady Gaga and that guy? Why don't I remember his name? Oh, Moulin Rouge. I mean, that was a great musical. That was like a rock opera kind of musical thing. Does anyone remember that? I do. I remember it. I didn't like it that much, but that's just me. But that was amazing. Like, I don't have to love it to realize just how fantastic it was. And I still remember the music from that. But that's to say, like, we can put up with that and the kind of more experimental forms of musicals in films. And people seem to be liking that more and more. But we're also, as an American public, brought up on Disney music, even Broadway music, like someone somewhere has heard a Broadway song, even if it's just like playing in a mall. Like, we're brought up on Chicago, on Fiddler on the Roof, and then on The Lion King, Little Mermaid, what have you. Like, we know good musicals. We do. Like, we inherently know it. I would argue that the American musical is our like classical form of Western theater. You know what I mean? Whereas other countries have, their classical forms. It's the musical for us. So we do know what we're talking about. So it's like, this is bad. It was bad. The music was monotone. It was like a strange kind of talking, singing experience. And it all was kind of like whispered. It was whispered throughout. It's like, and I don't even remember the words. I just remember the feeling of how bad it was. Like, it was monotone, a strange kind of like talky, singy experience that had over the top like dance moves as well. It was a bit absurdist. Maybe that's what an opera libretto is. I don't know. But it kind of felt like a dirge while also being a bit poppy. But I'm like, what were the instruments? I can't even remember the instruments. I can't even remember the lyrics, except that they were ridiculous and absurd and should have just been scripted. It should have just been a script, but they turned it into a musical. And so there's that. And I just have to say, like, as a public, we want our musicals so that we can hum along, sing along, or at least like tap our foot to a rhythm. There was no rhythm. There was no beat. Like, there was nothing I could follow along to. And it was just like the songs that Zoe Saldana sang, and she was so passionate about them. They were just like this weird whispering kind of like angsty, like a whispering yell, if you know what I mean. I don't know, you're gonna have to watch it. I don't know the lyrics to kind of pretend to portray it to you. But either way, it was bad. It was an objectively bad musical. But at the same time, and I'm getting to my main point here, and to the reason why this film is not so bad, is that it just can't be taken seriously. And I don't know why more people aren't talking about this, because its saving grace is the fact that it's a musical. Like, here's an example. One of the reviewers who was talking about how disconnected from Mexican culture it was, had a small comment, but very significant, where in one of the first scenes, Zoe Saldana is out at like a cafe at night preparing for a court case. She has her computer with her. She's like drinking some wine, or maybe it was after the case. Either way, she has her computer, her cell phone out. She's there. And this is in the middle of Mexico City. And the woman who was giving the review was like, that would never happen. Like, no one would be out at that cafe doing that. You wouldn't be having wine there, working on your computer. And I mean, I've never been to Mexico City, but I know what she's talking about because I lived in Bogota. And yeah, those same kinds of places are there. They're called tienditas. I forgot the name that the woman used to talk about the Mexican location. But yeah, tienditas, where you get snacks and beer and sodas and cigarettes, and you sit in like a dirty plastic chair kind of on the sidewalk and like have a beer and then leave, You're not going to be having a glass of wine and working on your laptop with your cell phone out. They would be stolen like that. Like, you just don't do it. And everyone knows that. So if you're going to make a movie that's true to Bogotano culture, you're not going to include that. And that was the point that this reviewer was making in her film, in her review. But she didn't mention the fact that while this was very unrealistic, the actress, Zoe Saldana, was also, at that same moment, singing to the shop owner. And the shop owner was singing back to her. And people on the streets were dancing in rhythm, all together, with music. So was that realistic? Is that what they do in Mexico? No. Is that what they do anywhere? No. So can we just suspend our disbelief for a little bit, because it's a musical. It's ridiculous, it's absurd. And so if you're willing to believe that someone is going to burst into song and dance in the middle of the street with strange lighting, then you should believe that they're probably going to misrepresent the cafe culture there. And they're probably going to misrepresent what it means to be a narco trafficker. They're probably going to misrepresent what it means to have a sex change. They're probably going to misrepresent relationships and what it means to kind of pay for your crimes after you've decided to stop being a drug lord. Like, I could go on and on and on, but it's a musical. It's total unreality. It's totally ridiculous. And so this is why I think that, like, we've taken this so seriously. And I think that that's just because maybe the director has taken himself so seriously and it was put forward as such a serious film. And then it's like, it's a musical. And it's not just a musical, it's a musical with dance numbers. I mean, it was a choreographed, like, patternized dance number when Zoe Saldana is going to get information about the sex change operation for Carla Sofia, for Emilia Perez. Like, no, that's not how it works. And she's like doing search online. She's like, and Zoe Saldana is also doing her like research online at work, writing in her little brown notebook. Like, no, like that also makes no sense. That's not how you research. Come on. I mean, it's just, you can't stop finding problems with this film once you start. And it's all because it's a musical and it's just supposed to be absurd. So can we take everything, every serious, cultural, gender-based, relationship-based, identity-based, language-focused element of this film and just take it with a grain of salt because it's a musical and a dance piece. Let's just face it, okay? So yeah, that's why I wonder, like, why people are so upset by it, especially, like, maybe, honestly, maybe given what's going on in the world right now, especially in the United States, we're just upset about a great many things and feel like a lot is out of our hands. And so we're projecting and just focusing on this because the real stuff that's really tragic and scary, you can't really do much about, yeah? Let me just say one tiny thing about the actual post-film scandal with Carla Sofia and her tweets. Again, I don't know enough about them to know, like, all the details of, like, when they were put up or, like, when they were taken down, when they were discovered. But it never ceases to amaze me, the audacity of public figures and their, like, trigger happy fingers when it comes to social media. I'm horrified. It's just like, anyone who thinks that they can and should share these kinds of thoughts are just insane. And I'm wondering, like, where was her publicist? Where was her publicist in all of this back in, 2021, 2022? Where was her publicist in the whole process of these insane, insensitive, horrific tweets? And why hadn't they just taken her phone from her and been like, no, we've got to vet everything you say because this is going to look bad for you. Like, this is on something called social media. And once it's put out in the world, it never goes away. Even if you delete it, someone's going to find it because it's called the cloud. And in the cloud, everything exists forever. It's called eternity. That's our form of eternity right now. So don't do it. Like, every celebrity needs a course in what social media means, because celebrities just are on that way too much, just airing their grievances, airing their opinions. And why she thought that it was okay to share those ridiculously awful, insensitive opinions in the first place is one issue. The fact that, of course, she was found out about them, I thought that was very interesting timing, that just like right when the award ceremonies were ramping up, they did this kind of, that this was uncovered and talked about, and suddenly she was just on the outs and everyone was condemning her and against her, and being extremely reactive. So it's like, where did they get those texts? And then the fact that she deleted them after that, which is like, oh God, way to look guilty. And then the fact that she didn't apologize the way people wanted her to apologize. I don't know all the details of that, but she just didn't handle it well. Again, where's the PR? Where is the PR in all of this? But then the fact that people are like, no, she doesn't deserve to win an award. And I'm like, well, what? Okay, if these awards are judging people for their daily lives, then no, she doesn't. Okay, but they're judging her for a performance that she did. And I'm also thinking about all the other horrible people who, not horrible people, okay, I need to be careful with how I phrase this, but like all the people in Hollywood who have done horrible, horrible things multiple times out in public, and people just kind of let it go and let it pass. We're obviously getting more sensitive as a culture, and in terms of, and the world of like Hollywood and entertainment, like Harvey Weinstein is gone. All those men were canceled for sexual abuse. Will Smith's wrist was slapped and he was taken out of the Academy after he slapped Chris Rock in public on stage before winning his award. So it's just like, oh my goodness, why is this a double standard? Is it this trans woman being kind of scapegoated in all of this? Are people upset that, with the thought that a trans woman could also be a racist homophobe? I don't know. And insensitive and dumb to write those things? Clearly you can be both. But I don't know. That's another big mess. I won't get into that because to me it's not as interesting as bashing this silly musical. And it's not that it's not as interesting, it's just like way more complex and has so many layers to it. And I don't really have the energy to talk about it, especially because I've been talking for, oh my God, 34 minutes. Okay, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to stop. I'd say watch the film. Just watch it. Watch it. Get yourself a nice big glass of wine. Get yourself some popcorn. Dim the lights and just be ready to laugh. Be ready to laugh. Be ready to like try and tap your foot to that music. And let's see how it does at the Oscars. All right. Bye.